Hello, I'm Sean Belkey, and this is my presentation on the Battle of Tours. So, what was the Battle of Tours? So, the Battle of Tours was fought between the Islamic Umayyad Caliphate and the Kingdom of the Franks, which were located in central and northern Gaul, which is now France. The battle took place on October 10th, 732. Right about here was the battle site. It's kind of, history that far back can be kind of iffy, but Tours is right here, and the battle is believed to have taken place right on this fork in the river. So how did it begin? The Battle of Tours was really followed by 2 decades of conquests by the Umayyads into the Iberian Peninsula, right here, and then working up into southern Gaul. And as you can see in this map, the expansion had been happening for a while at this point, but the world had really never seen a expansion like this before. I mean, they expanded all the way over way into southern Asia, over here, all of northern Africa. Now they were working their way up into southern France. So the two armies met in what would be the deciding battle in the Muslim conquest, because if they can make it past Tours, then there was nobody to stop them from working their way into the rest of Europe. So who were the leaders of the battle? Well, for the Franks, it was Charles the Hammer Martel. He was Duke and Prince of the Franks. He was also the ruler of Francia until his death. And for the Umayyads, it was Abdul Rahman al-Ghafiqi, and he was just a very successful military commander. He had led a lot of the conquests into Europe. So the comparison to their armies, the Franks had about 15,000 to 20,000, while the Umayyads had 20,000 to 25,000. And click on the picture of Sir Charles Martel. He brings us to a video of the Battle of Tours. And so the strategy of the battle was really what, decided the battle. So the Umayyad Caliphate really failed to properly scout Gaul. They had no idea who they were going to be going up against. They thought they were going to run completely rampant through the entire country and be able to make it to northern Europe in months. They completely underestimated the force of the Franks. But Charles Martel knew this battle was coming. He knew that sooner or later the Muslims were going to make their way into Gaul, and he was going to have to stop them. So he had been training for a decade for this encounter. He really took the Caliphate by surprise. They really had no idea that they were going to run into such a large force. But Charles Martel had come at this point because the Umayyad Caliphate had just won a large victory as soon as they entered Gaul, in which they plundered a city, which will come into play later when we talk about the endgame strategy for the Franks. So really what the Franks did is they met on a hill, kind of in a little valley by these rivers, and they formed a large phalanx formation, which is essentially a very large square protected on all sides. And they stood uphill, which protected them from the Muslim cavalry. And basically the cavalry just rammed into this phalanx for about a week. And finally on the 7th day, al-Rafiqi decided they really couldn't sit there and skirmish anymore. They weren't dressed for the weather. It was cold. And they had to act fast. So on the 7th day, he led a charge into the phalanx, but the Franks held, and Martel took advantage of the failure of the charge and sent scouts to the Umayyad base, and they just caused a ton of chaos. They reported back that they were stealing treasure that they had stolen from the city that they had just plundered, after one of their victories. They were freeing slaves that had been taken from previous battles. So once this got word back onto the battlefield that this was happening, it caused a complete panic, and many of the soldiers retreated back to the camp. The Franks took full advantage of this and basically ran the caliphate off of the battlefield. So who won? Well, obviously it was the Franks, pretty handily. Estimated Frankish losses were about 1,500, and the estimated Umayyad losses was about 10,000. So what was the effects of this battle? It stopped the Islamic invasion of Europe, and modern historians really believe that if the Franks had been defeated, there was nobody left to stand in the way of the caliphate. They were just too strong, and they easily would have conquered the rest of Europe and established a Muslim control. So here is where I have a little review game for fill in the blank. So this is Charles the Hammer, 1,500 Frank losses, 10,000 Islamic losses, took place in modern-day France, religion of Islam. And here's my end of the lesson survey. So if you click on the link right here, this will bring you to a little survey about rating the lesson. And just thoughts about it, how I could improve. And that's it.